Hello, thanks for coming to walk with me today. I'm walking at 1.8 miles per hour if you want to keep pace. And I just want to say happy fall, y'all. That sounds like such a southern way to put it, but fall has arrived and that is my absolute favorite season. So happy it's here, ready for that crisp fall air that, to be fair, I don't get a lot of here in Georgia, but it does show up, here and there. And I still get to see the leaves change colors, all the reds and oranges and yellows. And I don't know, there's just something about fall that just so cozy and comforting and nice. But yeah. Also, want to say I hope you notice that the audio is improving as I have a new mic. It has noise reduction, so hopefully the walking pad isn't so noisy, and maybe it'll even prevent hearing pitter patter of little penny feet. That's my dog, and she seems to really be unhappy when I use my walking pad. It's about a miracle to me that right now, as I look over, she's laying in her bed chill, because normally she gets I don't know if it's anxiety or what, but she tends to kind of walk back and forth beside me and just pace a little bit. Sometimes she's panting. She's what's going on? And my husband always jokes that she's why are you walking in place but not getting anywhere? And I'm like, that's silly. Of course, he's joking. But I wonder if you have a walking pad or a treadmill and you walk inside and you have a pet, specifically a dog, but it could be a cat too, what do they do when you're walking? Do they care? Because to me, I'm I understand in the beginning her being a little cautious, what's going on, right? This is new, it makes noises, you're moving, but nothing's happening. So I get in the beginning, but I've been walking consistently on a walking pad for 2 years now. So I'm just how are you not used to it? But like I said, she's lying down right now, so I guess she is getting somewhat used to it. But comment down below and let me know what do your pets do if you're walking indoors? I'm just curious. But anyway, what we're here today for is to talk about concerts. I used to love going to concerts, given most of my concert going years were between 18 and I don't know, maybe 27, 28, somewhere around there. So could have had a lot to do with the age. And of course, you can go to concerts at any age. You're not necessarily ever too old to go, but I have noticed with age, things that I used to want to do, you're interesting to change. Now I'm going to book club. I'm not going dancing anymore. I'm not going to the concerts so much anymore. I'm at book club, and that's about my speed. But I've been thinking about this lately because, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour has been this huge event, right? I have several friends who have seen it. I have one friend who's got to see it several times, both in the US, and she got to go over to Europe and see as well. And I'm so happy for them that they got to do that. A little sad for myself. My stepdaughter and I got really into Taylor Swift, really the last, I don't know, however long this Era Tour has been happening, or when Midnights came out, really, we'd listened to her before. But everything kind of ramped up with the Eras Tour. You hear about it everywhere. So we had looked into going, and tickets that were behind the stage, I say behind, not obviously all the way behind, but think of the stage, not even off to the side, but slightly diagonal and behind a little bit, up high, so not even good seats, were I don't know, $2,000 something each. Plus you got to tack on fees. By the time it's all said and done, you're talking $7,000 for a few hour experience. And it's just absolutely not. And of course, that's because these are tickets from StubHub that, people bought at a cheaper rate. And now they're really jacked up because demand is so high and blah, blah, blah. All of that to say, the only Eras Tour we're seeing is the one that's on Disney Plus. yeah, that's gonna be that. But that made me think of concerts. And so I wanted to walk and chat with you about some concerts I've seen. And at the end, I'm going to ask you to tell me about your experience with concerts as well. But my first concert actually was when I was 18. The year was 2005. It was the year my friends and I were really into the band Hinder. You might have heard of a little song called Lips of an Angel, or maybe you haven't, but it was a big deal. And I also think, like, I'd already listened to rock music at that point, but it had been like a while since I'd gotten into like more like a new rock artist kind of thing. So we were into Hinder, and we saw they were coming to Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was about 30 to 45 minutes from our hometown, depending on like where you were trying to go. So we saw they were coming. We're like, yes, let's go. This is awesome. Touring with them, or at least playing at that same venue, was Red and Papa Roach, and then Hinder were the showrunners. And I remember, now that I've like some years had passed from that, and I really got into Papa Roach for a while, I was like, wow, how were they not the showrunner? But I guess it just so happened at the time Hinder was huge, and Papa Roach was, working on something new. So anyway, so this is the time when people had flip phones, if you had a cell phone at all. And so you weren't using GPS all there. And a lot of people, actually, this was around the time people started using like GPS devices that you would like plug into your cigarette lighter or whatever and navigate around, but we didn't have that. So this is gonna make me sound really old, but this is when we used to type in directions on the internet. We had the internet, and we would get directions or a map. A lot of people use like MapQuest. I always used Yahoo Maps. I don't know why, I just did. So we had never been to this venue before. We never been to a concert before, but like, you might have been to Chattanooga or something else, but we never been, so we didn't know where to go. And honestly, around that time, I didn't have a lot of experience driving on the interstate, especially not up in Chattanooga, because I didn't go there very often, and really I just didn't really have a lot of need for interstate driving. So take into account, I'm still a fairly new interstate driver. And if you've ever been in Georgia and went up to Tennessee, like I think it's 24 west and east, like it just gets a little tricky for someone so new to that. And I don't remember exactly what went wrong, but I was driving, my friend was reading the map, navigating, and yeah, we either missed the exit, took the wrong exit, we got all messed up, and we were late to the concert. So we were both pretty upset about that. Luckily though, we didn't miss any of the Hinder set, so that hadn't happened, but that was our first concert, and we didn't realize that at the time the ticket said it was going to start, like there would be other people. We didn't really even get that. So we were like, all right, but by the time we made it there, we'd already missed Red completely. Papa Roach had maybe 2 or 3 songs they played, and then we went into Hinder. But later on, I became a really big Papa Roach fan, and so I was so bummed that I had missed them. But anyway, it was a really great concert. I would call what we were in, maybe we were like up in a balcony. I mean, it was like up high. We weren't down low, but we could still see the stage really well. It wasn't super crowded, like up in our little section. Yeah, I wish I knew what the venue was, because I really liked the venue. It wasn't huge, it wasn't really small, but it was just like a good space for, I think, our first concert, and nothing crazy or wild happened. We just all went and had a really nice time at the show. So there was that. And I think after that night we left, and if you've been to a rock concert, probably any concert, but we just felt like such a good energy, like electric, right? Like full of like, oh yeah, all the good tingles, and we couldn't wait to go to another concert. Unfortunately, my friends and I that went to that, we just like drifted apart, and we never made it to a concert again. That's fine. A few years later, with some other friends, I finally made it back to my next concert, and I think this was actually in 2007, possibly 2008, but I'm pretty sure it was 2007. So like 2 to 3 years later. another Chattanooga venue, and we saw Seether, Breaking Benjamin, and 3 Days Grace. And actually, I've seen Seether 3 times. I'll mention another time in a little bit. The third time, I literally cannot remember who I saw them with. They all started to blur after a while. But Seether was awesome live. That was the first time I'd seen them. And I like the song Remedy. I just loved that song so much and was so happy to see it live. Breaking Benjamin was really big at this point. And the album or radio, like you heard it and it sounded so good. But in person, I was really disappointed. And I don't know if like the band was going through something. I don't know if it was a sound issue. All I know was like the band, like I remember the drums being like really good. But the vocals were just not it for me. Like I felt like it was so like mumbled and I just couldn't understand anything he was saying. So I don't know, didn't love that. But 3 Days Grace, who was the showrunner for that, was absolutely excellent. And of course, again, I'm talking 2008, 2009. So this was OG 3 Days Grace. New 3 Days Grace is fine as well, but it's not the same. But OG 3 Days Grace, they were awesome live, loved it, great energy, left that concert with a buzz as well. And it was probably another 2 or 3 years before I made it to my next concert, which was also in Chattanooga. It was at the Chattanooga Choo Choo. I just specifically remember this one. We had a group of 4 people go, and we saw Theory of a Dead Man, and I swear Hinder was there as well. But I tried to do some fact checking and look up when Theory of a Dead Man was at Chattanooga Choo Choo at that time, and I can't find any proof that Hinder was there as well, but I'm almost certain I saw Hinder twice and that it was there. But I can't prove it, so who knows? But that venue was really cool because it was a smaller venue. And even though there is seating, it kind of reminded me of like a high school gym, but bigger. But it's like they had like bleachers and then like a big open space. I don't know, that's just what it makes me think of. And so when Theory of a Dead Man was playing, like it was mostly people you would just come up and kind of stand around, and you felt like you were so close, and he was so handsome, and it was just like such a cute little experience, like a more intimate feeling experience. That was around the time I Hate My Life was really streaming big. So, I mean, they were definitely getting traction at that point. And I do remember something bad happened at that concert, though, not at the concert, but actually leaving the concert. At that time, for sure, I was not a very like an assertive driver, so we were having a really hard time getting out of the parking deck. And one of my friends, who is much more of an assertive driver, she's like, let me just get us out of here. And I'm like, all right. And she was wearing these really tall and like sharp heels. So when we were switching seats, her heel like cut through my leather seat, and I was like dead. I was dead inside. Given my car at that point would have been around maybe 4 or 5 years old. So it wasn't like it was brand new, but it was still, I knew I wouldn't be getting another car until I had like an established career. Because at that point I was in college and like working at the shoe store, so I wasn't going to be getting a new car. So I was pretty dead inside about that. But of course it was an accident and it was fine in the end, like whatever, I survived it. But yeah, that was like a fun little concert. And then if you lived in or around Atlanta in the like, actually I don't know like the range of this station, but definitely during the 2000s and early 2010s, there was a radio station called Project 961, and they played like hard rock, like mostly current stuff or stuff within the last few years. Every now and then they'd play some like older rock. But that was just like an awesome radio station. Like me and a lot of my friends listened to it all the time. And they used to have this big concert called Project Cinco. And I went to it one year, and I think it was 2012. So it seems like every 2 or 3 years I would go to a concert. It would take me that long to go. But Project Cinco was my first, at least that I can recall, outdoor concert at an amphitheater. And I loved it. I just liked the feel of it better overall, just like the open air, the music, the vibes was just really nice. And the people playing, there was like a really big set list. So there was Adelita's Way, Art of Dying, Chevelle, Five Finger Death Punch, Hell Yeah, Shinedown, and Volbeat. And I remember really liking Volbeat's sound when their first like song or two came out. I'm like, oh, they sound really different. In the end, they weren't my favorite band, but it was still cool to see them. Chevelle, I was really looking forward to Chevelle. I really liked their sound and they were great. Five Finger Death Punch at the time felt a little hard for me. Now I like them more. But at the time I'm like, ooh, that rock is a little, that was like my limit. So they weren't my favorite. I think did I see them again later? I feel like I might have seen them again another time and liked them more, but I'm not really sure. I'm telling you, they blur. But I think Shinedown and Chevelle were the two I was most looking forward to, and Shinedown was really great. I really liked them. I'm trying to remember. It's possible I saw Shinedown again as well, but couldn't tell you for sure. That was a really great event. Like, that was a long day. You were out in the sun. It was in summer. I think it was in May, and went with a decent sized group of friends. We chose the lawn, so you can like bring a blanket, bring chairs, like just hang out. Had space to be with your people. Yeah, it was a really fun day. Then I stopped going to rock concerts for a little bit. Not even for any particular reason other than the group of people I was hanging out with was really into country music, and we started going to this club. I guess you'd call it a country club. They played like pop songs and dance songs as well, but not until like way later in the night. Most of the time they were playing country music and you were line dancing. So I learned how to line dance, even though I have learned people who like to line dance will line dance to any type of music. There's just like some standard, steps, some standard dances, and people will put them to any kind of songs and music. It's actually funny. But did that, and so because of that, like I'm like, oh, because growing up, I guess here's a little tidbit. Growing up, like during the 90s, we pretty much listened to country music. I would say 90% of the time. We did hear some pop music, some too, like some Janet Jackson, some Paula Abdul, that kind of thing. But we were mostly listening to like 90s, like the current 90s country. And I think like during the 2000s, I was just like, ooh, country's getting a little too poppy for me, and I wasn't loving it like I liked 90s country. So kind of stopped listening to it for a little bit, and then, like I said, going line dancing and hanging out with a group of friends who were really into country music. Like I'm like, all right, let me listen to some of these new artists and see what's going on. So over time, I did develop a liking for them, and went to see some concerts with my friends. So we saw Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Brantley Gilbert, Thomas Rhett, Florida Georgia Line, Kenny Chesney, Tim McGraw. I almost saw Old Dominion, but I was late to that concert because of traffic and parking and didn't get to, and I was bummed because I really liked Old Dominion at the time. And then at the fair with my husband, we saw Dustin Lynch, who, like, he became bigger, but at the time he was like kind of in the beginning, so he was playing stuff like the fair. And Sarah Evans was also there, so that was kind of cool. Like, those were like fun little concerts at the fair, more intimate, and I don't know, they're nice. So those were like I like kind of had a big country moment for a few years, and then that dwindled for me. And I actually went with my husband and then my friend and her boyfriend at the time to see like a punk rock pop moment. We saw Paramore and Fall Out Boy. It was a great concert. And it was like really like kind of, I don't want to say nostalgic because it wasn't like that long before, but back in like 2007, like 2007, the friend that went with me, her and I used to like just really connect with the Paramore and Fall Out Boy like music that was out at the time, and just like based on things we were going through in her life. So it was nice that many years later, like almost, I don't remember what year we went to that concert, but almost like 10 years later at least, we finally got to see them in concert. So that was just kind of nice, you know. And then the last concert that I went to was, drum roll, like I'm almost like, I feel like people are gonna be, this is like a very controversial band, let me just say that. It was Nickelback. I absolutely love Nickelback, and as a matter of fact, I think I would say that's my favorite concert. Like the people that were there, like the crowd, were just like, I don't know, we just all felt like connected in a unit, and just a great time. The music was awesome, like just so good. I know a lot of people don't like Nickelback. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a fun thing to not like something. Whatever your reasons, cool. If you love Nickelback, awesome, like, you know, rock on. I do. I love Nickelback, and that would probably be a concert I would like to see again. When I was reflecting back on the concerts, I was like thinking, what's the big difference between rock and country concerts? Because I wasn't like the type of people that go, which is true. However, I was at both, so I'm sure there were plenty of other people who liked both. I mean, I had friends who went to both concerts with me, so, you know. But, and it's funny because this is definitely just my personal experiences and opinion. And as a matter of fact, I asked my husband did not go to all those concerts with me. Some I went to before I knew him. He's been to rock concerts without me. And so he's like just basing it off his experience as well. But in my opinion, I think the rock concerts are like calmer than the country ones. And he said that he feels opposite, which I thought was funny. But he also didn't remember one of the instances that I'm going to share with you in a minute. But to me, when I think of the country concerts I went to, again, not all of them and not everyone who goes, but the people I was going with at the time, like they were really into like drinking, and I've never been a person who's into that. So could be that it was just with the people, you know, just happened to be the people I was with. But they went to like tailgate before. They'd get pretty drunk beforehand, you know, because obviously it's cheaper than buying the drinks in there. They'd still buy drinks in there though. But I would also notice, like, once you're in the venue, like the other people, like people to me, and mostly I'm thinking of the outdoor venues I went to for country, but I feel like they're there to party, which that's cool if that's what you want to do. But that's I was there for music. I'm not into partying like that. So I don't know. I feel like people just kind of can spoil the moment when they're like fighting or yelling or super intoxicated. You know what I mean? Like that just kind of ruined it for me. And I don't recall really seeing any of that happen at any of the rock concerts I went to. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I didn't see it. And to me, the rock concerts felt like people were there for the music. Like that's just how it felt. Like it felt like people were literally there for the music. Like at the Kenny Chesney concert I went to with my husband, it was indoor, and someone dropped or threw or who knows what, like a glass beer bottle, and almost whacked us in the head. That's the part he said. He's like, I don't remember that happening. I'm like, maybe they did hit you in the head with it, but it definitely happened. I'm just like, what is going on? Like, it just felt like wild and out of control to me. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But if I were to go to a concert again, I'd definitely prefer to go to a rock concert. But that's me. And honestly, I don't go to concerts anymore for a few different reasons, but the first being the price. Like, concerts are just so much more expensive now, which, given I know everything is, like, eggs are more expensive, gas is more expensive, you know, like everything is. But I just remember before, when I was buying tickets for concerts, even when I didn't have like my grown-up job, you know, like I was in college, and I never felt like, oh, this is too much money to spend on this experience. I never felt that way. Now, that could also have to do with the fact that when you're younger, you typically do feel like, I'm willing to spend anything to have the fun I want to have. But But really, I know the ticket prices weren't anything crazy. I would have been able to afford to go. But like I mentioned, the Taylor Swift concert, given that is an extreme example, and I know not all concerts are that expensive because the demand is not the same, but I can't remember. I looked into going to see someone else too. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like concerts are crazy expensive now. Like, no thanks. And but probably even more so than the price for me is how complicated I feel like it is to go. I mean, that could go for any event in a place with a lot of people, but I just remember the last few, because they're always in the city, right? There's not like a venue super close to me. So it's always going to be like a 30-minute to an hour drive, depending on where in the city it is, depending on the traffic. And if you live near Atlanta, you know, like, sure, there's rush hour, but Atlanta traffic is always bad. Always. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. It's just like, what's going on? I guess I shouldn't say that. Sometimes at night it's pretty chill, but it's pretty crazy all the time. And I like don't want to be on the interstate dealing with all that. So there's that. It'll take you forever to get there. You finally get there. Parking is normally pretty expensive, pretty packed. It's hard to leave. Everyone's leaving at the same time and you have to like wait to get out the gate, put your parking ticket in, all that. And then the people at the concert, again, not all people, of course. Some people are very polite and chill, but people are like, I'm short. I'm only 5'3". So people like stand up in front of you, you can't see. And if you have like those foldy chairs, you can't stand on those. And like people are loud, or I mean, yes, please go and sing and have fun at concerts, but some people, you know, are so extreme and they'll be so loud that you can't even hear anything else around you anymore. Like, and I'm just like, I'm not paying a lot of money to experience that. No thanks. And this is probably part of my age speaking here, but like, it's just too crowded. Like, I just don't want to be in a big sea of people that I don't know. Like, that's just not appealing to me anymore. It's just not. But the final thing for me is anxiety I feel about being in places like concerts. You know, there's been a lot of events happening in the US, mostly in the US. You know, there was one at like a big scary issue at an Ariana Grande concert before, and it was, I mean, I wasn't at it, of course, but that one in particular made me feel really nervous. And I remember we were going to go to see, I think Jason Aldean and I don't know who, maybe Old Dominion, somebody. We literally bought tickets, and like leading up to it a few days before, I just felt like I did not feel comfortable going. I did not want to go. And I told my husband, like, if you really want to go, I'll go, but I'd really rather not. And he was instantly like, nope, I'm good, don't need to go. And that's really kind of surprising to me because my husband's really frugal. Like, he likes to use coupons, he likes to find the deals, he does not want to waste money, but he really doesn't like just having to deal with the whole hassle in the crowd. So he was really fine. And since then, except for looking into Taylor Swift's Eras tour, I have not even really thought about going to a concert. But lots of people do go and have lots of fun. And if you haven't been to one, I definitely think you should find like an artist you really like, and when they're coming somewhere close enough to you that it's reasonable to go, like, if that's something you want to do, then go check them out, because concerts can be so much fun. And who knows, maybe one day someone will spark my interest enough that I feel like I need to go. As a matter of fact, if you've seen anyone in concert that you just think was like awesome and you're like, no, you should really see that one, like, leave it in the comments, let me know. Or how do you feel about going to concerts these days, you know? Thanks so much for walking with me today. I'll see you next time. Bye.